What's up? Okay, so Chelsea Green, Val Venus, they've been having an issue online. It's all around this trans visibility thing. It's really dumb, and this is definitely one of the subjects I try to talk about not as often because for me it's kind of pointless. But there's been an upsurge in the last couple of weeks in virtue signaling from WWE wrestlers from various, especially from when they were overseas. Punk and Finn Balor, and I think a couple of other people were posting like pro-Palestine murals, and now it's this trans visibility stuff. There's a whole lot of woke idiots in the WWE locker room, and typically I try to avoid it, try not to, let all this stuff throw me into. For starters, I really don't care that much about it. So I don't get that emotional about things I don't care about. And since I don't really care about the whole Palestinian issue, nor do I care about the transgender stuff, I don't really overthink it. I tend not to overthink it. I just look at it like, hey, this is what these people do, man. They take any opportunity to virtue signal, of course, Cody and Omega and Punk. They virtue signal about the trans stuff when they were in AEW. It is what it is. But it all started with a Mia Yim post about International Transgender Day of Visibility, whatever this even means. I don't even know what this means. Um, this is pretty ridiculous. It's Mia Yim, and there's a picture underneath with Mia Yim hanging out with this transgender wrestler Kid Bandit. It's all very gross and strange. I try not to think too much about this stuff. Chelsea Green started by saying, hate you, love this, because clearly they're feuding on screen, but she supports the message. So she says, hate you, love this. And then Val Venus decides to write an entire paragraph about this thing. Um, Again, let's just get into what he says. He says, content like this drives me away from wrestling. It's disheartening to witness the disconnect and lack of moral engagement. I believe Chelsea Green, along with those affected by her views on transgender issues, needs our prayers. I see the transgender movement as harmful to society, supported by individuals who, in my view, neglect the seriousness of what is called gender dysphoria. My advice for those experiencing distress related to their gender identity is to pray, seek treatment, and deepen their relationship with Jesus Christ. In contrast, Chelsea Green seems to advocate for acceptance, embracing a serious mental disorder, and supporting coddling and nurturing gender dysphoria. These represent two very different paths in life. Pray for Chelsea and the folks deceived by her. Now, let's just be honest about this whole thing, okay? It's a mental illness that they're trying to destigmatize. That's what this whole transgender thing is. It is a mental illness because there is never a such thing as being born in the wrong body. That literally never happens. It's never happened in human history. The idea of being transgendered never happened in human history. It's men who likes to wear women's clothes, women who likes to wear men's clothes, and people who want to alter their body. Just like folks sometimes want to get tattoos on the side of their face, some people want to cut their balls off. I mean, it is what it is. It's a personal choice. I don't care. I do believe that anything with a high suicide rate should be treated seriously as a mental illness. Considering I work with people with mental illnesses, I can tell you that people with bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, etc., have suicide rates that are up there with transgender individuals. That is deeply problematic for somebody like me who wants to see people healthy and happy as much as possible. This doesn't mean that everybody transgender is, suicidal. Just like everybody who's schizophrenic isn't suicidal. Just like everybody who's bipolar isn't suicidal. But there tend to be enough of them that it is a genuine problem. Now, these two go back and forth again and again. Chelsea Green responds to that tweet by saying, "It's so unfortunate that instead of simply scrolling past, you chose to quote tweet me, knowing it would invite your followers to pile on. You are fully aware of what you were doing, encouraging harassment towards me and towards the LGBTQ plus community. Fortunately, neither your opinions nor your attempts to undermine my support will change anything. I will be praying for you because it looks like you've got a little too much time on your hands and hate in your heart." This is typical woman stuff. The thing about the key word that I typically always trip over is when I see the word community be used in this way. It's not a community if it's scattered all over the world. Okay. Um, it's just a gaggle of individuals who are put together. But she's saying, well, your followers and etc. are going to pile on. Um, maybe, maybe. But Twitter, unfortunately, is a public platform. Is it a public, technically? Meaning anything you say in public is going to be responded to in public. So I found it interesting, however, that she said she was going to pray for him because a lot of people truly believe that recognizing that somebody is sick and in need of treatment means that you hate them, which is incorrect as much as it is just an observation. And an observation that an individual needs help because clearly they are struggling with something does not mean that you hate them. I talk about transgenderism the way about like a typical mental illness. You don't hate people with bipolar disorder, but there are signs that they have bipolar disorder, but there's no bipolar disorder visibility day. Why would why are governments and individuals all over the world taking time out of their day to do this whole trans visibility thing? Why? I don't know. I don't have the answer to these questions. Val Venus then responded by saying, "I'm sorry to hear that you interpreted my actions as harassment or hate. Your post was shared on a public forum, a digital town square called X, and I engaged with it by critically analyzing your position and sharing my perspective. This is the essence of public discourse. Labeling disagreement as harassment or hatred seems excessive. Could you clarify which aspects of my post led you to that conclusion? I firmly disagree with your stance on the certain LGBTQ issues, but disagreement does not equate to hate. Civil discourse allows for the differing of opinions without resorting to personal attacks or assumptions about intent. My critique was focused on the ideas you presented, not you personally. If we are to have meaningful discussions, we must separate individuals from their arguments and engage respectfully. I stand by my original post as a fact based critique, not an attack. Let's strive for constructive dialogue rather than mischaracterizations." Now, here's an interesting bit. She claimed that negativity and hate came to her in the LGBTQ community by Val Venus responding and interacting with her tweet. However, she completely disregards how her response brings negativity and hatred to his tweet, as there is no doubt a ton of negativity around his Christianity and his appeal to Christianity um, in his response. But it didn't stop there. They continued going back and forth. I'm not going to go through every single tweet that they had back and forth. But Val Venis continued by saying professional wrestlers are entertainers first and foremost. However, when entertainers step beyond their role in the entertainment industry to engage in political discourse, it highlights a troubling cultural trend. The expectation that everyday people should blindly align with the political stances of boob tube celebrities without any due process scrutiny. Even more concerning is the tendency to vilify dissenters with labels like transphobic or bigot, or as Chelsea Green called me, hateful. This uncritical idolization of celebrity opinions is not just irrational, it takes a nuke to the foundation of any meaningful dialogue and critical thinking. My political positions are always open for scrutiny. Republicans regularly challenge my opinions. Libertarians challenge my opinions, and even anarchists challenge my opinions. Leftists, however, do not challenge my opinions. They instantly throw the labels of hateful, bigot, or anything phobic at the reputations of anyone who dare challenge their insane positions. And this is a very fact-based post because labeling it 100% works. Labeling works. That's why they do it. It gets you dogpiled. It forces people to apologize even when they didn't do anything wrong. And it really only can cancel you if you keep buckling. If you stand 10 toes down, usually you come out okay. But here he's talking about celebrity culture. I would say Chelsea Green is a minor celebrity, very minor, extremely minor. It's so much as I don't think anybody knows who she is. But that's where this stuff comes from. That's the importance of Mia Yim and Nikki Cross and so many others putting up things like Happy Trans Visibility Day and all that stuff. It's because these people are on television and it makes them seem like they're on the right side of history and that they're supportive of these policies. Let's just say policies, okay? Celebrities coalescing around an issue have never made the issue popular to me, but then again, I'm not, the average bear. Most other people are that way. They are often swayed by what they see on television and Instagram. Otherwise, you would have to pay for commercials, which is odd, right? Because leftist things are the only kinds of commercials that you will see that don't require paid ads. I think that anything that promotes social justice issues is almost done for free. Like the weird thing about the Nikki Cross tweet is that I don't think she tweeted anything in months. Like she's literally like a zombie or something. And she out of nowhere posted something about the transes is and all that stuff. So I don't like it, but there's nothing you can do about it. To be quite honest, celebrities preaching dumb shit to people is as common as anything in our culture, whether it's boxers, other kinds of athletes, movie stars, etc. They put them in commercials to hope to rub off on somebody that the product that they're selling is cool or culturally relevant or whatever the case may be. Again, why do these people feel the need to post the things that they post in support of things that are highly irregular in the world? I don't get it. I don't get it. Is it that All of us, is somebody going to think that Chelsea Green is a bad person if she doesn't quote something like that? Or is it just that she's a liberal white woman? You know, she's a Canadian. Of course, she's going to be for this stuff. Try finding a Canadian who's not. Well, like, wait a minute, what am I talking about? Val Venis is a Canadian who's not. That's the interesting bit. Now, Chelsea Green responded by saying, Val, I've been holding back from responding with the same level of hostility you've shown. But since you keep tagging me, I'll say this and I won't be responding again. I'm Canadian. I can't even vote. So when I speak about human rights, I'm not talking about politics. I'm talking about equality. Although I'm sure you would love to take this time to further push your political agenda, I will continue to push for the LGBT community with my cis privilege. It is the least I can do. End of discussion. And she sent him a heart. She says, I'm Canadian. I can't even vote. See, the weird thing is, and a lot of people need to realize this, politics is not about voting. It's not about elections. See, he made a fatal mistake when he started mentioning different political groups that challenge each other's opinions. This is not about something, a bill or a policy going forward in Congress. It's not what this is about. This is 100% about the politics, the cultural issue. But the cultural issue is political. Politics being discourse between the poly, you know, the people. This is a political issue. There is no other reason for you to be posting this stuff. The idea of human rights. What do you mean human rights? Human beings cannot change genders. They cannot change sex. It just doesn't happen. I don't what human right look, if you want to say, look, you just have a as an adult, you can present any way that you want. Okay, fine. But then why don't you post people who have like horns, you know, molded into their heads and happy face tattoo day or you know, and all this kind of stuff. But they do. They obsess with this body positivity crap. All this stuff comes from a deep-seated desire to be seen as the moral better. And that's the groundwork she's laying here. That's the groundwork she's laid by saying, I'm not talking about politics, I'm talking about equality. So it has fuck all to do with equality. It has everything to do with morality. Morality. And what do you mean by equality anyway? They aren't like other people, so why should they be treated like other people? That doesn't make sense. I mean, we don't have any sort of equality for anything else in the animal kingdom. But when it comes to human beings, we're supposed to treat all human beings the same. Not all human beings are the same. It's just you don't treat wolves and poodles the same. You just don't. You don't treat human beings who go out there and cause people harm and danger the same as people who don't. And you don't treat people the same who are, engaging in some kind of proxy self-harm with people who don't. And there's our people who engage in proxy self-harm in one way or another through the people like Michael Jackson who hate their nose, so they go and get a nose job again and again and again. People who get Botox and facelifts, these people who just can't stand the fact that they're aging. Those people are deeply problematic too, and they also probably need to see some kind of therapist. But when you talk about people who go to the extreme of cutting off perfectly healthy body parts, of ingesting hormones that belong to another creature, well, I shouldn't say the word creature because that makes it sound like it's an alien or something. When they ingest testosterone or female hormones that don't belong in their body, and then they're surprised that their brain is screwed up. Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. You're surprised that your body looks weird after you're trying to force it through medicalization to change what you look like. Yeah, that's not gonna work out. That's not gonna not gonna be well. There's people who take medications that they must to live, and it's changed their bodies and it's caused all kind of problems. Like I knew people who had to take steroids because they have, like, some kind of a hormonal issue or whatever, and it made them gain weight. About females, you know, a girl who wouldn't be that big if she didn't have to take steroids, but she gained weight because she's taking steroids, and usually it's like a birth control pill or something like that, in order to regulate her periods and stuff like this. There's all kind of stuff. There's all kind of stuff. Mental health medications that change how you look. You might have some kind of physical reaction to it, whether it's um, something that's akin to an allergic reaction, but not really, where you might have like some swelling. You might have weird skin discoloration or something like that. It's kind of like an allergy. These people are not like other kinds of people. I'm not saying you should mistreat them. Treating people differently is not mistreating them. Sometimes you treat people differently for a good reason. We treat children differently for a good reason. We treat children better than we treat adults. We treat the elderly different for a good reason. We treat the elderly better than the average adult. An average 60-year-old man will get better treatment in the streets than a 30-year-old man. You treat people differently for different reasons, depending on the circumstance. Nobody really believes in equality. It's a false god. Anytime people tell you that they believe in equality, they will almost always carve out something because they don't believe 11-year-olds should get driver's license or be able to get married or buy alcohol. So you don't believe in equality. Offer it. You don't believe in equality even amongst adults, because most people will run around here and say men and women, they're not, exactly the same. Men are bigger, stronger, faster than women. As soon as you say that, men and women are different. You can't treat them the same. But then you have these people who are brain dead. They think men and women are the same. That's just stupid. Just plain stupid. Anyway, that was a whole hell of a lot between these two. And I'm pretty sure Val Venis continued because he always does. And this is where I kind of go off the rails with Val Venis, because he bites into these things and he just continues on and on and on and on and on. And it went from Val Venis versus Chelsea Green to Val Venis and Gabby Tuft, quote unquote, the transgender wrestler who was in WWE, and last I checked had like a tryout or something with AEW. Gabby Tuft is Tyler Rex, the gigantic, muscular male wrestler. Is not another Canadian, if I remember correctly, who now wears women's clothes and has medicalized his body to a female appearance. says to Val Venis, says, quote, Val talking about people throwing hateful terms at him. Y'all should see the garbage he spawned at me, Nyla Rose, and Giselle Shaw. Can't remember the last time I saw someone so desperate for attention. So, of course, Val Venis responded to this by saying, Gabby, I see you're taking the time to critique my so-called garbage, but I must say, your dedication to analyzing my every word is truly flattering. If attention is what I'm after, you've certainly given me plenty. As for desperation, I'll leave that judgment to those who read your tweets and mine. Perhaps they'll find irony in your eagerness to engage. Respectfully yours, Val Venis. So Val Venis posted, I guess, the conversation he had with Gabby Tuft. He started by saying, here is former WWE pro wrestler Tyler Rex, now living as if he is a woman named Gabby. Tyler appears to be experiencing gender dysphoria, a complex condition created by social engineering and in many cases past trauma. That can be a lot to take in. That said, as Christians, we should pray that Tyler finds Jesus Christ and embraces his forgiveness, while also recognizing the valuable knowledge Gabby shares about nutrition. Gabby is clearly an expert in diet and fitness, offering incredible insights for those seeking a healthier lifestyle. As a Christian, I believe Tyler needs Christ, just as we all do. However, a person's worth in society should not be defined by their struggles. While it may be difficult to see Tyler living openly with this condition, the value of the nutrition and fitness education being provided is undeniable. Top tier knowledge. Keep Tyler X/Gabby in your prayers. So he continues. This was in 2021. Val Venis, and this is what Val Venis is posting. He's posting this stuff like he screenshotted it and is posting it again. I smell money if AEW creates the tag team of Gabby and Nyla. Have them walk right through the male tag team division. Oh God. Oh, have mercy. Here's the weird thing. If you believe in interracial matches, I'm sorry, not interracial, but intergender matches, why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you? You're gonna ask Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin to put over the two trans people? See what happens there. He continues by saying, I don't like the idea of Tyler X becoming Gabby Tuft, but Gabby is at least rational in thought. That's refreshing and unexpected. So he posted a bunch of tweets where he is basically giving Gabby Tuft some level of credit for having knowledge about. Oof. I just saw that before and after. My brain is just damn. Anyway, for having some level of nutritional knowledge, and he's actually not promoting that these two people be banned from wrestling. He's saying use them in a way that's going to get them some heat. It's similar to the way that Jim Cornette mentioned about Nyla Rose, which pissed a bunch of people off because to them this is not how people should behave. But so Val Venis then turns his attentions back to Chelsea Green. He says there is no sense in attempting to continue discussing the issue with her. It stands to reason that when someone confidently makes a statement like, so when I speak about human rights, I'm not talking about politics, it represents a total lack of awareness of the intrinsic link between human rights and political structures. Human rights are deeply embedded in political systems, laws, and governance, and advocating for them involves addressing political issues. A person who dismisses this connection will resist arguments that challenge their perspective or require nuanced understanding of the political dimensions of human rights. On top of that is her willingness to label someone hateful and hostile with zero facts and evidence that will prove that claim true. Typical leftist tactic. All we can do is pray for her. Yeah, Chelsea Green is not. She's unbothered. She got almost 10,000 likes going after Val Venis. Almost 10,000 likes. So there is that. Again, I don't like that people go on and on and on about this stuff. I think that it's best to say your piece and move on. I do not care whatsoever about Gabby Tuft, Giselle Shaw, Nyla Rose, this issue. I am on people. You have the right to be gross if you want to. All I've asked is that people leave the kids out of it. That's the only thing I've asked. That's the one thing I think we should all be agreeing on, is that this is not an issue that should involve children. But I agree with Val Venus's last tweet by saying the idea of human rights being divorced from politics is dumb. You know, when you talk about somebody's human rights, you are talking about politics. Because when you start talking about equality, like, what kind of equality do you mean? You're no doubt talking about social equality, but you're also going to talk about political equality. And political equality is the issue at hand. So, very weird. WG Phil says, I remember when Tyler was an anti-masker during 2020, 2021, and now all of that was erased because he put balloons under his shirt. I don't follow this person, so I don't know. You know, like, again, I have my feelings and I choose to not engage. That's how I feel. I don't want to rant and rave about it. I just choose to not engage. I don't watch their matches. I I feel how I feel about the subject. I don't care if you call it old fashioned. It is what it is, you know. One of my big criticisms of Scott D'Amore is the way he treated Giselle Shaw. You know, I mean, again, you have Vince McMahon, who, he hired his girlfriend. Everybody said this is the worst thing in the world. Scott D'Amore hired his girlfriend twice. Girlfriend works for him right now. Girlfriend in quotations, of course, because Giselle Shaw is not a girl and was never a girl. But nobody says anything. The big nothing burger. Jet Scott D'Amore is banging around with one of the talent. Oh, but if it was somebody else banging the talent, oh no, that would be a problem, right? So, but it's Canada again. There's so many Canadians in this situation, so I don't. Isn't Gabby Tuft Canadian too? Jeez, I don't know, man. There's just so many Canadians in this story. I don't care anymore. But it was very weird. It's very weird. We got one other thing we can discuss before we wrap this thing up. I went longer on that than I thought. So we all know that GJ Vlad has decided to jump into the wrestling space, right? So recently he went after Peter Rosenberg. Reason unknown. But Rosenberg kind of dodged the smoke, but he decided to go after Peter Rosenberg. So after DJ Vlad posted the tweet supposedly blowing Booker T's spot up about the whole Chase and Rant situation, which I only hear about anytime somebody takes a picture with this guy. It's a really weird story, this Chase and Rant thing. You know, very gross individual. Probably should have his fingers and feet broken, but Again, I don't know his story. I just know that he's on the sex offender registry and he runs a wrestling school. And people occasionally visit this wrestling school, and he has some friends in the wrestling business. But nobody knows who this guy is. It's not like he's a famous guy who ended up being a pedophile or something. So Booker T basically was like, "Look, I don't know anything about that guy. I just don't know him, right?" So Rosenberg decides, no, I mean Vlad decides he's going to go after Rosenberg. I don't know if Rosenberg said anything to him first, but we're going to start here because I'm going to look at Rosenberg's timeline in a second. So DJ Vlad says, for all the up and coming hip hop media outlets, look at Peter Rosenberg for what not to do. Same dead end, low paying radio job for 20 years. Never got a promotion. In fact, he got demoted when Ebro took the main position on the Hot 97 morning show. Spent 18 years uploading to his YouTube channel to only have 5,000 followers. Most of the videos he drops gets less than 1,000 views. Hated on every new media person who came in the game. Formed no new relationships with any of us. Will ultimately retire broke and bitter. Have mercy. Now, I'm not a big fan of Peter Rosenberg, but Jesus H. Christ. He came in hot and heavy on Peter Rosenberg, dumbass. And look, this is some of that Jew on Jew scuffling we used to hear a lot about. Apparently, Rosenberg, now Rosenberg, I will say this. What Vlad is saying is not entirely accurate, as usual. Rosenberg made a lot of money off podcasts. He made quite a bit of money doing mostly podcasting, not off YouTube. Typically, what happens with people who have extremely big followings, but their YouTube numbers are pretty low, is that people listen to their podcasts on podcasting platforms. So you'll see it with other wrestling YouTubers or whatever that they do mostly, podcasting. So they'll have a pretty big following online, but you look on YouTube and it's like, what they don't get no views at all. But it's like most of their fans listen online. And that's how Rosenberg is. Rosenberg gets a lot of attention, but it's not on podcasts. Okay. So I don't know, because I'm looking at Peter Rosenberg's timeline and I don't see where he's gone off or said anything about Vlad. So Vlad just attacked him for seemingly no reason. Maybe he deleted something because he seems like a tweet delete kind of person. But I don't see that he said anything to Vlad since this whole wrestling thing started. Because Rosenberg, he tweets a lot about pro wrestling and sports and all this stuff, but I don't see anything. It's been mostly him promoting Evolve, him promoting his podcasts, him promoting the various other things that he's been involved with. But he did, I think, have a response to DJ Vlad. Let me just put Vlad in here. Maybe there's something that comes up. Oh well, I guess he's talked trash about Vlad in the past because he said in December, how much does Vlad pay for these interviews? Millionaires sitting down to have these conversations is so weird to me. So apparently they've been going back and forth for a while because apparently Vlad took shots at him back in 2009. Rosenberg says, someone told me DJ Vlad took subtle shots at the God on a little video. Dude said there's nothing good on New York morning radio. And so apparently Vlad has been going after Rosenberg for a while. Interesting. Let's see what Rosenberg had to say about Vlad. I'm pretty sure it was nothing much. It seems to me that oh, he says oh snap, someone sent this to me during commercial at first take. So somebody had added Peter Rosenberg to the DJ Vlad tweet. And he says, glad you're exploiting people on YouTube stuff, man. It's going well. That's crazy. That's crazy. He said, I'm glad you're I'm glad you exploiting people is going very well for you. Damn. See, Vlad is never going to get off of that. He's never going to be able to walk away from that. But Rosenberg didn't say anything about Vlad that I've seen. Maybe he said something about him on a podcast or something. So very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Oh, how very nice. Cal Bloom, aka the what was his name in NXT? I forgot already. Shit, what was his name? Anyway, what's the name's kid? The kid from the that's how forgettable this guy was. I'm looking right at his goddamn face and I can't remember his name. Anyway, he was in NXT. He got fired. He's in ROH now. He's a security guard not too long ago. Very nice of Tony Khan to give the guy a chance. Very nice. So apparently Devil May Cry is their anime is about to start. Von Wagner, yeah, absolutely. There we go. You guys, you got it. You guys are smarter than me. He's out of sight, out of mind as far as I'm concerned. Now, let's talk about this. So apparently Tony Khan was asked about these SES. I always say SES scoops, but SE scoops on Max. Brandon Thurston or somebody asked, and Thurston said Tony Khan on the social media call is asked about the report from SE Scoops on Max streaming viewership of AEW. He said he was excited about that report. Streaming numbers are very confidential, and AEW hasn't gotten weekly reports for viewing on Max like they do for cable via Nielsen. So AEW does not even have this information. And somehow BJ Bethel got it. Come on, man. Let's stop it. Just cut it out. Just cut it out. Let's not discuss it anymore. I'm done with that. Who is this? Who is this girl here? Oh, it's Sierra. I knew she looked familiar. Um, let's see if there's anything else worth discussing here. DJ Vlad likes drama. He's a very fake drama bitch. Not a big fan of that guy, boy. Oh, the Kanye West interview. Oh my God. Oh my God. Whew. I could probably do a whole joint just on that Kanye West interview. That was crazy. That was crazy. I want to find one more wrestling subject to discuss. It seems like there was another conversation that was had about Cody Rhodes and AEW. I'm tired of that conversation. It's so tired that I'm not going to even continue with it. Just going to pretend I didn't even mention it. I do want to talk about this though. Every day I come on social media and I see, especially in the wrestling space, some American wrestler being denigrated. This time it was Shawn Michaels, and they like to pick on guys. Like I say all the time, like the wrestling fans are the worst. And each time I come up with, I think these fans are the worst. People think that the diva stands are the worst. They typically are not. The worst are the indie wrestling fans are the worst. They're easily the worst. But a lot of the territory wrestling fans are just as bad. The really, really, really old school fans. Because they're super elitist. They're even more elitist than people who, everything is all about Dragon Gate from 2007 or some shit, right? I see every day that they decided to. One time it was Kurt Angle who wasn't all that good. And I'm just looking like, and you see the kind of people that they're putting over. And look, it's their opinion. You can't really argue with people's opinions. But this time it was Shawn Michaels is not in the same stratosphere as Genichiro Tenryu. I'm just like, y'all, every day y'all come on here hyping up the most boring, mediocre, drab Japanese guy who just happens to be Japanese. If Tenryu was white, nobody would be putting him over. Right? The only reason you're even talking about this guy is because he was Japanese. And I see it, they do it all the time. It's the most generic. You have to watch the whole 45-minute nothing tag team match to understand his brilliance garbage every fucking day. I'm like, bro, I'm not about to sit here and invest 40 minutes into a tag team match that led nowhere. That's got grainy fucking footage because you think Akira Taue is super talented. Like, no, like I'm sorry that I actually expect wrestlers to be more than just boring Japanese mechanics. I'm sorry. At least when you talk about somebody like Kenta Kobashi, right? Kenta Kobashi sold. He had fire and intensity. There's something there that you can connect with. And then they'll get you with this Morishima shit. And you're like, oh, Japanese Terry Gordy, except for the fact that he didn't have Terry Gordy's charisma. Come on. You just, it's almost like the anime fans who think that anime is everything and anime is better than everything because you fetishize it. These people fetishize Japanese wrestling. And there was I did a video years ago because Nick Aldis made the comment and I was all in then, but I'm even more all in now about these fans who fetishize Japanese wrestling. I'm going to find that article and I'm going to read it right now. This was from 2020. Oh, my channel has basically just started. March. NWA star Nick Aldis wants the fetishizing of Japanese wrestling to end. Yes, I 100% agree. He says, I want to qualify this point before I make it because I know that clickbaiters are going to pick this up and turn it into something it's not. But I need the Western wrestling's obsession with Japanese wrestling to just calm down a bit. I've wrestled in Japan, and I love going to Japan, but I'll be honest with you. I don't love wrestling in Japan because it hurts. It's really physically taxing, and I don't get the same adrenaline rush from it because the audience don't react. It's like I'm killing myself and it's light clapping. What I mean by this, I understand and respect that they have their own thing, and there are some guys who are phenomenal, and there are some who are some of the best ever, legends, but it works for their culture, it works for their audience. And I'm just so over this snobby sort of misconception that has sort of bled into the overall lexicon of modern wrestling, and that somehow if it's Japanese, it's better. Like this is how they do it in Japan. What I'm talking is this sort of almost fetishizing of anything that's Japanese, and somehow that makes it better. The ironic thing is you're working the audience because most of them have never been to Japan. They've never been in a Japanese audience. They're not Japanese. They've just been co-opted to believe, oh, it's Japanese. It must be better. I better agree, or everyone else will think I'm stupid, or everyone will think I'm not elevated enough as a wrestling fan. I'm not knowledgeable enough. It's this sort of weird, snobby sort of culture that exists now. Man, he fucking nailed it. I'm so sick of these fucking Japanese nerds. I don't know what to do. They're so fucking annoying. It's not even the fact that some guy in the universe thinks Tenryu is better than Shawn Michaels. I don't care about that. It's the consistent. Every boring fucking Japanese guy is better than every American guy ever. Just pick random Japanese dude. Oh, he's got all these 5-star classics. Like, here's the weird thing. There's a YouTube channel out there. I forget what it's called. Maybe if I go to my YouTube thing. But he does these little comfortable documentaries about Japanese pro wrestling. And you know what? I actually like him. I want to give him a shout out because I do like his content. Let's see if anything. Oh, here it is. Kim Justice Wrestling Road. He did a 4-hour documentary on Misaharu Misawa versus Toshiaki Kawada. Right? Okay, this is a 4-hour documentary about two very generic Japanese guys. Extremely generic. Sometimes I'm watching this stuff and, you know, just trying to learn a little bit more about a time where I didn't really watch it, and I'm bored by the highlights. Like, it's so weird that even when I watch old wrestling, I don't even get bored by the highlights. This is supposed to be the prime 5-star shit, and the highlights are boring. And this guy loves this shit. He can't find better stuff than this. At least he puts everything together very well. He edited very well. He tells the stories very well. He does a lot of good research. But I swear to God, like, when these people try to tell me about Japanese wrestling, like, bro, you don't even realize how bored I am by you telling me about this shit. I would rather you just tell me about it than me have to watch it. If this was just a podcast, I would be great. I don't need to look at the fucking screen. That's how boring these people are. And I don't know if it's a cultural thing, like, but I mean, it's not cultural because I like, you know, Muda and Liger and Ultimo Dragon and the Great Sasuke. There's plenty of Japanese guys that I actually do like. But none of them are these lumbering, I'm going to drop you on your head, we do 40 minutes of chopping bullshit guys. I just don't care about these fucking people. And these are considered the best wrestlers in the world. Like, they fucking interchangeable pretty much. It's crazy to me. And I see this every day, all day. You're like, I know you ain't about to sit here and watch some tag team match from 1990. I know you're not for real. Get real. Get the fuck out of here. No, you're not. Okay. I can believe that you probably got into the big matches because you're a wrestling nerd. So you probably did sit back and watch the 40-minute match from the Kurikan Hall or whatever. Maybe you did. But these nothing-ass tag team matches from these bullshit tournaments, you ain't about to sit here and watch 30 minutes of that shit. I know better than that. I ain't dumb. You know? But I do want to learn more because, you know, wrestling is fun. I like wrestling from all over the place. I tried watching the AAA Rey de Reyes, the King of Kings show yesterday. I fell asleep on it. It sucked. I fell asleep on it. I used to watch that show every week. I mean, not every week, but that particular show every year, along with Triple Mania. You know, the giant sword gimmick is right up my alley. And then I think like Nino Hamburguesa won. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Anyway, these guys are in love with this shit. And I'm thinking to myself, man, there's nothing special about this fucking guy. Like, he'll say, oh, you should go watch. He's like European or something. So he's like, you should go bloody watch this match right now. It's so fantastic. Brilliant performance. And you go to the match, and it's 38 minutes. And it's just guy walks to the ring. His facial expression does not change. They get into some decent mat work. They go back and forth. They start, of course, hitting a little bit harder as the match goes on. They take a little bit more dangerous bumps as the match goes on. You know, somebody gets dropped on their neck, and somebody gets hard chopped in the face. Then they start kicking out of big moves. And next thing you know, you're 38 minutes into the fucking match, and it's still not over. And you're like, oh my God. And it's for nothing. It's just like, this is a Block B tournament. I get the, who cares about that shit? Like, I'm sorry, man. You guys are a little. I enjoy the picture. You enjoy the lines in the picture. I mean, it is what it is. Like if I read a book, I don't always go about pouring myself over like sentence structure and all that. Like I'm not really that deep into it. But some people are, and you got to accept that. Like there's some books that sold a lot of books, and I'm just kind of confused. Like, why are people reading this shit? It's literally just happened to me today. I was at work. I had some downtime. I started reading The Girl That Played with Fire. There's a trio of books: The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, then The Girl Who Played with Fire, and then it's another one. So I got the second book. I just happened to have it. I was reading it at work. I got to like chapter 7, and I was like, "What the fuck is this book about?" Once it started turning into like a romance, like everybody's fucking all the time. They're talking about this woman having sex with this guy, but also she having a husband, and the husband knows and doesn't care. And this girl's a lesbian, and she has got breast implants. I'm like, what the fuck is this? The first book was fun. This book is trash. I don't get why people are reading this. It's the same thing with Neil Gaiman novels, but it's the same thing with these Japanese wrestling shows. These people be super fucking hyped to talk about these shows, and I like their excitement. But I'm looking at the clips like, ooh, these guys, whatever. Though, like when I see clips of like the Great Sasuke, I'm like, damn, I need to go look at that. And the match might not even be that long. It might be like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, maybe. Okay. But with these fucking guys, it's Misawa especially. These matches are 40 minutes. And I'm not even talking about including entrances, because they don't have like big, huge WWE entrances. These guys just walk to the ring like fucking Vern Gagne, put their arm in the air, and then go in there and do wrist locks for 10 fucking minutes. I just be like, my God, bro, no way. No way. And then I was like, man, I want to do the Japanese do that? Do they have like their subsection of fans who are like really slobbering over like Nick Bockwinkel, who was fantastic by the way, but like Nick Bockwinkel and Dick the Bruiser and shit. The most nondescript white guys who just happen to be at the top of the card. Probably not. Probably not. But the European wrestling fans' obsession with Japanese wrestling needs to be studied in a lab. It needs to be studied in a lab. It's almost a cult. It's worse than the territory guys, because at least the territory guys, when they try to put you on something, you see it. You see how the fans are roaring, and sometimes the match is long, sometimes the match is short, but there's a clear baby face and heel. The crowd is roaring and going crazy. There's passion, there's fire. That's good stuff about the territory wrestling. But the Japanese shit, I don't know who the baby face is. I don't know who the heel is. It don't matter. Everybody just taking the sickest bumps possible. The match is super long. I'm just like, I don't understand this. I don't understand people's obsession with this. I'm just going to say, maybe that Puro shit's not for me. I've tried Puro for years and years and years. It ain't sticking. It's just not sticking. It ain't for me. I've watched All Japan. I've watched New Japan. I've watched a little bit of Dragon Gate. I watched a little bit of Noah. I'm talking past stuff, present stuff. None of that shit sticks. I just find Japanese wrestling to be humorless, boring, mechanical shit. And it really kind of blows my mind, because then they port that shit over here to the United States. They bring that garbage over here and treat it like it's the best shit in the world. And then American fans do what American fans do, which is completely and totally ignore that shit. These guys out here hitting each other with burning hammers, and American fans will be on the phone, like, because you're not giving them nothing. You're just doing you're doing basically a cheerleading routine. I'm going to hit you very hard. I'm going to hit you very hard. I'm going to kick you in the face really hard too. But the best Japanese stuff for me is the stuff that features American wrestlers. Terry Funk and, Hanson and Brody. And, that's because these guys bring character, and the stuff that I like about the territory shit, they bring that to Japan. And they get the Japanese people rocking. And that's what's fun. I like that. That's fun. But when it's two boring Japanese guys, some of these three musketeers or the four pillars or whatever the fuck they calling each other, I don't give a fuck about none of those people. Straight up. I might be a wrestling, nerd myself, but I would rather watch The Miz than watch Misawa. Because I know a Miz match ain't gonna be 40 minutes. All right. You're taking a chunk out of my goddamn life. And the older I get, the more I realize I ain't trying to invest that kind of time in a wrestling match. I'm not going to get the kind of outcome. There is no outcome that's going to possibly come from this match that I need to invest that much time in it. Because for starters, I'm not really that interested into any of the characters, so I don't care what the outcome is. And that's what they don't get, But that Tenryu thing really kind of drove me crazy because I'm just looking like, bro, get the fuck out of here, get real. I've seen plenty of Tenryu matches. He's fucking boring. He's boring. All right, though the Japanese love him, man. The Japanese like Japanese guys. I mean, it is what it is. There's probably guys worse than him, but he fucking sucks. He chops very, very hard. Yeah, that's great. I don't think wrestlers should be trained monkeys. Like, what else did you do? But you got to realize that wrestling is showmanship. Japan takes this stuff way too seriously. And, that's why the wrestling business got decimated over in Japan when mixed martial arts kept showing up because they're doing fake versions of that shit. See, MMA, it disrupted, pro wrestling a little bit over here, but it didn't do that much damage. It almost killed pro wrestling in Japan. And then a lot of the MMA promotions ended up being works anyway. So like rings and what was the one before that? UWF and UWFI. A lot of that shit ended up being a work anyway. But they were working stiff, which means the pro wrestlers had to go out there and work stiff. Instead of just accepting that what they do is different, Pride had some works. Pride wasn't completely a work, but there were some works in Pride. And then it's Japan, all right? So they probably were mostly works. But there was also Pancrase. That was another one. There was quite a few works in Pancrase as well. So, and that stuff's kind of fun to watch. Like sometimes I'll just throw on, a weird MMA show, like a Valley Tudo show, or I think I was watching One Championship the other day. I don't know shit about Muay Thai. I just threw it on. And, it's okay. It's watching guys kick and punch, and they're not altogether boring. It lacks, of course, the sizzle of the UFC, but hell, even UFC is boring now. At least the One Championship fights are filled with action, and there's not a lot of downtime compared to the UFC and WWE shows. You forgot Battle Arts. I don't think I watched a lot of Battle Arts. I know it existed, but I don't think I watched a lot of it. Just like SWS, I didn't watch a lot of that either. I just kind of stuck to stuff that I had read about. Like when I read like Jonathan Snowden books, and he's talking about Pancrase, I just go and watch that stuff because I'm like, okay, well, that sounds interesting. Let's go see what that looks like. I need like more of a visual in my head as I'm reading about it. It's the same thing when I watch boxing documentaries. They sometimes, I was watching a boxing documentary earlier by Joseph Vincent, and I was watching the documentary he did on Oscar De La Hoya. And I've seen quite a few Oscar De La Hoya fights, but I've never seen any of the older stuff, you know? So it's like, whoa. I've seen De La Hoya fight Mayweather. I've seen the fight with Shane Mosley when it happened. But like going and watch really young De La Hoya and he got footage of that, and it's like, whoa, he was a monster when he was young. Shit, he was fast. He was fucking amazing, you know? And you can go back and watch that fight and be like, oh yeah, I see it, you know? But the highlights don't put you to sleep. These guys think they're picking out the best parts of the Japanese wrestling shits. That shit putting you to sleep. I don't know, man. I do appreciate other people's passions. That's why I watch the stuff. You know, I will always support if a guy's putting some effort in. And that Kim Justice, he puts in some effort when he's Japanese. I'm going to continue to watch him. But I would rather just watch him talk about it than watch the match myself. Because I don't give a fuck about these people. And I don't give a fuck about their story. I don't give a fuck about none of that. But his excitement over it makes me interested. And then there's other things that come out of it too, like learning why, so many Japanese promotions go out of business. Learning why, why this Japanese, like why Noah even exists. Like this is stuff I probably wouldn't have cared to even know before, you know. But now I know. Even though I did know before. I did know before. I'm just saying. Like they remind me of things. Like when Stan Hansen had his last run in Japan or something like that. These are things that I don't commit to memory that I learned a little bit more about through watching these Japanese fetish YouTubers. They're interesting. But I think it needs to be said once and for all, man. These fucking Puro fans, they're up there with some of the worst wrestlers. They're not the worst. I mean, I think the Diva stands need an apology from certain people because people are like, the Diva wrestling is terrible, and it is. It's not good, but they typically stay to themselves. They have their own little cuddle of they do whatever they post videos and talk about gears and all that kind of shit, and usually there's fun stuff to be had over there because they pay attention to stuff I don't pay attention to. They follow storylines that I don't pay attention to. Like they have interviews, like they follow interviews and stuff that I don't follow. So it's interesting to stay in the loop on what they're doing. But these Puro fans, oh my God, they're constantly talking about how much better some bullshit Tokyo show was, better than WrestleMania, how this guy should have been a huge star. He's, Hulk Hogan sucks. Everybody sucks. Undertaker really sucked. It's all about some random Japanese dude that nobody's ever heard of. It's like, bro, can you just talk about what you like without, this kind of shit, man? I don't want to deal with that shit. Like you're not selling me on Akira Taue by telling me he's 10 times better than Kane or whatever. Like, who gives a shit? Why is Kane the standard that you didn't pick anyway? Like, who gives a fuck? Gozu says elite Joshi fans seem to be worse, in my opinion. The Joshi stands they're annoying, but I think they mostly stay to themselves too. Like they understand that they're in a niche market. Like sometimes the fans do understand that they're in a niche, like that the Joshi fans, they realize not a lot of people even in Japan watch that shit. So they can get a bit aggressive in promoting it because they want more people to see it. But they don't typically jump up and down in your face over and over again. Like you would get that weird random Japanese girl X is better than Charlotte or better than Bianca Belair or whatever. And that's typical stuff. That's the same stuff that I say don't really bother me. But you don't get a hell of a lot of what I view as the disrespect and the fetishizing. You don't get a lot of that, like you do with, especially your fans of '90s All Japan. Some people who are super fans of like '90s All Japan, '90s New Japan, they're the worst. They're terrible. I feel like they're the worst. They're super fucking annoying. And no matter how annoying the territory fans are, they're not as annoying as those guys. But I love watching documentaries. So I always watch them. Like I watch boxing and MMA documentaries, all kinds of stuff. And sometimes the excitement of the person who's talking can get me to go watch what they're talking about. And that's the point, is to spread your joy and your enjoyment of something that you like. And I appreciate that. I will always support you in doing that. But in regular conversation, just know I ain't see that Akira. I'm not watching that Akira Taue match because he fucking sucks. And he doesn't suck in so much that he can't wrestle. He sucks as in I don't want to watch him wrestle, which is worse than not being able to wrestle. If I don't want to watch you, then that's even worse than not being any good at wrestling. You can be bad and I want to see it. You know, you could be so bad I just want to see you get beat up. That's how, you know, celebrity involvement, like the Logan Paul stuff, works. Everybody's like, man, so I saw somebody say Logan Paul is everything that people hate about indie wrestlers. Like, you're absolutely right. But guess what? People like seeing him get beat up. And that it begins and ends with that. The fact that he might be able to put up a convincing fight is fine. But people want to see him get beat up. And that's really what it boils down to. And as long as it's entertaining to see you get beat up, I'm with it. I am with it. But when you put Kawada and Misawa in the ring, who do I want to see get beat up? I don't know anything about either one of them. Maybe if I watch the match, 20 minutes in, somebody will do something heelish. But that's not really what I'm interested in. I wanted somebody to come in and the crowd tells me not to like him. And then it gets easier from there. Because I can make the decision about whether the guy's technically proficient or not. And I don't really care about technical proficiency. Whether you perfectly execute a move or not, I don't really give a shit. I'm focusing on whatever the story of the match is. But if the story of the match is two guys want to see who's the best, and neither one of them has any discernible character or personality, I'm punched. I'm punched out, and I don't care. I just don't give a shit. But hey, I'll give them this. I became a big fan of Kenta Kobashi from watching that stuff. But then I see shit. They talk about Kenta Kobayashi or Kenta, capital letter Kenta, how amazing he was, how NXT ruined him. I'm like, do you see this fucking guy? Like, do you like? Yes, the young Kenta was very good. You know, when he was working with Marufuji and all that, he was good. And then he came to NXT. He was very tiny. He started getting hurt. He never really found his footing. He had no great matches in NXT as Hideo Itami. And as far as I'm concerned, he ain't did shit since. He walks like everything hurts. He can barely fucking move. And anytime I've seen him recently, he's barely doing anything. But again, these Puro fans, they're still gassing up shit that was almost 20 years ago now. Well, if not 20 years ago. Like, he's not that guy. He wasn't that guy in 2014. What you saw in the Noah shows in 2007 or whatever, that's not what showed up in WWE in 2013, 2014 or whatever. That's not it. that didn't work. It did not work. Okay, let's move on. But he's got to be a victim. Oh, he's a victim of the WWE booking, and they mistreated him in NXT. Oh, poor Kento's one of the best wrestlers of all time. Look at the cage match. Fuck cage match. What is TNA also talking about? American indie stands, no matter what decade, have your pick. They really think some cornball jabroni that flips 200 times is destined for the greatest and should only go to AEW or New Japan. I don't see how they haven't paid attention to their, like, I'm a pattern recognition machine. If I don't know nothing else, I know how to figure out patterns. And most human beings are too. When you see the amount of excitement that they have for any kind of subject, and the most recent being Kevin Knight, these guys are now running around acting like Kevin Knight at 28, having never wrestled on American television at a major stage, should not have to try out for WWE. He should just be given a job. I'm like, based on what? He had no, he did some jobs in MLW and some jobs in TNA. Yeah, he should go try out. Just like a bunch of other people who had to go try out. And they're like, he was too good for that. Look at him, he's wrestling Will Ospreay on pay-per-view now. I'm like, yeah, he's going to lose that match. And he's probably going to do every move he knows how to do. Just like he did every move he knows how to do in the first match he was in. And then what happens when you're tired of seeing that stuff? When he's not the new toy anymore. Because now the AEW fans are acting like all the guys who left AEW, Ricky Starks and Ethan Page, all these people, they suck. They were garbage anyway. They were trash. They're not real hoopers. I don't know. Look, you can't argue with that kind of stuff. The only thing you can say is okay and enjoy what you enjoy. Enjoy what you enjoy. But the Puro fans are the shits. I can't stand them. I hate them so much. Najee Savage says the IWC hate Jada Parker for her transgender and women's sports take. Yeah, I saw that. I did a video on that. She was right. And apparently somebody else agreed because a woman in fencing took a knee recently rather than fight a man in a fencing bout. So that was interesting. AJ3 says then he had a storyline and involved him being injured and attacked in NXT parking lot and never got resolved. I don't think he ever even came back from the injury, did he? I don't know. He just didn't have it. And it was the same thing with Saray, who ended up being, or Sari, I'm sorry, the very young Japanese woman who went to NXT, promptly drop kicked somebody's brain out of their head, and then they put her in Sailor Moon skirt because she was in there killing people. And she's drop kicking Barbies in the head. Like, yeah, we're not about to put up with this. And now she's running her own little shows or whatever, and I heard she's doing pretty well. She's a really good pro wrestler. That's Sari. But we're acting like this is the biggest fumble of all time. It's like, yeah, it wasn't the right time, wasn't the right fit. But other women have come in and done well. Like, it's hard to say that, it was race that held her back. Like, how could that be when Asuka is like one of the top female wrestlers in the world when she's healthy? When WWE gave a huge push to Julia, even though Julia's a botch machine. Um, there have been other women that have been given opportunities. AJ3 says, I remember Jordan Miles, known as ACH. He was the first one of the breakout tournament years ago, and then he cried racism and was never the same again. I think he had some kind of mental breakdown, if I remember correctly. He had some kind of mental issue where he quit wrestling and he came back and he quit again. It was basically like a Kylie Ray situation where he kept quitting and coming back and having meltdowns and stuff. I mean, you can't do nothing about that, I guess. A guy got mental health issues. He needs some help. But I've been sitting on that Puro rant for a while now, man. I was gonna do I don't need to do a whole video on it. I don't need to. I'm gonna just keep it up. I'm just gonna keep it up. And I'm also not gonna really argue with these guys. You can't argue with people about something that they fully believe in. Najee Savage says Tony Storm is the biggest miss by Vince for me. He would have loved her timeless gimmick. Here's the thing about that. It never would have happened in WWE because it came from RJ City, who works in AEW. So when people say Tony Storm was a huge fumble by WWE, it's like, okay, I thought Tony Storm was great when she was in NXT. I thought she was great in NXT UK. The issue here is that the gimmick that got her over is not something she would have come up with in WWE. It's a very WWE gimmick, though. But the thing is, it came from RJ City. And RJ City works in AEW. So it was never going to happen for her in WWE to be this big of a star because RJ City didn't work there. Well, he did work there, but he wasn't in a creative position where he could have pitched this idea to her and had any hand in helping to craft the storyline. And that's not taken away from Tony because, again, I'm a fan. It's just the facts. The timeless Tony Storm character never would have worked in WWE. If, let's say, she had gone from AEW to WWE with that timeless gimmick, Vince would have loved that. He would have thought that was great, you know? So, yeah, he probably would have pushed her based off that because that's a phenomenal all-time character. But that gimmick was never going to happen for her in WWE because nobody would have thought to come up with that. At least I don't think so. And if they did come up with it in WWE, then everybody would have hated it and said it was terrible. AJ3 says, what is it with wrestlers and their mental illness? I think the indies need to have a therapy session around the indie circuit. I think it's just people. People have mental health problems, man. It's that simple. Some people get into, I mean, and also it could also be brain damage, but I think a lot of it is just people. Anytime you find a lot of people, you find a lot of people with mental health struggles, you know. But he pretty much did it to himself. But I think a lot of wrestlers have like mental health problems, maybe more than normal. Najee Savage, what do you think Rusev will do in his second stint in WWE? I think he'll be much better. I think Triple H probably is willing to do more with him and willing to take him more seriously and probably give him a little bit more creative control and is willing to let him really get in there and cook. Let him be the kind of character that he wanted to be, especially if he wants to do the Redeemer in WWE. That would work, you know? I think that would be fun. I actually think that he might do very well in his second run if they decide to give him the opportunity. And we don't know for sure that they will because look at what Triple H is doing with Andrade right now. We don't know. The M Studios, how you doing, brother? We're actually near the end of this thing, but I actually have a pretty good I have a good feeling about Rusev, especially coming back to WWE. Not so much Andrade, not so much with Aleister Black, um, but Rusev, I actually got a good feeling about him. I think they're going to I think they're going to care a little bit more about what he's doing. Damn, I didn't know there was an NXT vault. They got this old NXT. They pushing that shit everywhere. It's on Tubi. Now it's on YouTube. Wow. But this goes to show the fact they're coming up with all these vaults goes to show what we were saying before, what I was saying before, and that's that the past material doesn't really sell for WWE, and that's the modern shit. NXT Takeover London, Finn Balor versus Samoa Joe, Bayley versus Nia Jax. 54,000 views. NXT Takeover New York, 165,000 views. That's the highest I've seen so far. 193,000 views. Stand and Deliver. Oh, it's just the one match though. Oba Femi, Dijak, and Josh Briggs. What a terrible contest that is. This was just the one match too. Gargano and Cole. So it seems like matches do better than the shows. Bayley versus Asuka, 194,000 views. This is an interesting information. If you look at the NXT shows, the average is like something like 7,000, 8,000. But if you take just a single match, like Lyra Valkyria versus Roxanne Perez, they got 192,000 views for this match, which is more than combined of the last 4 uploads. Asuka and Ember Moon, NXT TakeOver Orlando, 256,000 views. Amazing. Andrade Almas versus Aleister Black, 175,000 views. NXT TakeOver New Orleans. That's the best thing about this, though, is that they're posting matches. So you don't have to scroll through the show to find matches. Also, okay, there's a new champion of the highest, Pat McAfee versus Adam Cole. NXT TakeOver 30, 319,000 views. Amazing. 395,000 views. Lyra Valkyria versus Roxanne Perez. NXT Women's title match. This is the match where Lola Vice cashed in her championship thing at the last minute. That was dumb. But almost 400,000 views for this match. Roxanne Perez is a draw on YouTube, huh? Get real. Yeah, that's almost 400,000 views. That's nuts. Oh shit. The War Games match, Team Ciampa versus Undisputed Era, 562,000 views. Interesting. They posted pretty much Bray Wyatt's entire NXT run in here. Roman Reigns in NXT got 113,000 views. 383,000 views for people to see his debut in NXT. Interesting. I didn't even go back that far in the NXT vault. You said they need to have an ECW vault. I don't know, man. ECW's content is probably hard to monetize because of all the cussing and the blood and the fire and shit. They may have to, actually edit that stuff. I would hate for that to happen. Ugh. Most of my YouTube is just like combat sports, like boxing and MMA, pro wrestling, and then food shit. Guy eating in his car, man. The shorts. I watch the shorts. And the occasional rap song and the occasional history YouTube. Watch a lot of history shit. You said, did they edit Chris Benoit? I don't think so. I think he's still in this. He's still in these shows. I haven't watched. I don't think I've watched anything fully on YouTube yet. Mostly, if I need to watch something, if I want to watch something, I just go to Peacock and watch it. That way, I can watch it without commercials. But I'm at the point now where I'm like, why even have Peacock commercial free if I can just watch it on YouTube? The reason I had Peacock and was paying for it is because I wanted to watch these shows without commercials. But I guess that's still true even now. Oh shit, Kalisto. When's the last time I saw that guy? All right. Thank you guys for stopping by, man. I appreciate it. My phone's about to die. So you guys have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you guys later.